Welcome back to your D121 to part 4 of our wine bottle glass exercise. And in this one, we're going to work on the wine glass. And this shouldn't take us as much time as it did for the bottle, unless we put a lot of detail in it, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to put together a nice glass shape and put some wine in it, just so it looks nice next to the wine bottle. And we'll just draw it with the pen. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here, so I can see the whole glass shape, and it's locked right now. And I don't know if I need to turn on the opacity. I guess I could a little bit, so I have to unlock it to do that and then click on it. I'll turn down the opacity just a little bit to take off the harsh edge, and I'll lock it again. And I'm going to take my pen tool. We'll see how you remember doing this. Now, you could zoom in to do just parts of it and then kind of scroll when you work. That's fine too. And I think I might try to do half of it. Now, you could do something where you try to draw an oval and cut it off and all that. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to draw it and just kind of go down here and click. I'll make it that a straight line, and then I'll go down here, see if I can make a curve here. That's not too bad. I'll click to get rid of that forward handle because I'm kind of going straight down here, and I'll just make a little straight line. And I'll scroll. Now I'm going to click and drag right here so it creates a little belly in there. I'm just going to click and drag. So I'm going to just go down here where it starts to get straight and just click and drag down till it fills in that area. I'll try to make my handle come down straight, and then I'll click on that. Now I think we already did like a wine glass anyway, so this might be kind of review. Now I'm going to go over here and try and just click and drag and get it in that area, which looks good. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'll do a Command plus, and if you're on Windows, do Control plus. And I'll hold my space bar, and I'm still drawing here. And I'll get rid of that thing. And I'm just going to go down here and go down here. If you want a little lip, you could click and drag a little and then click on that point. And then I'm going to go here and drag across like that and just kind of make that little belly shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then what I'm going to do, this will be a surprise, I'm about halfway over. I'm just going to click, and then I'm going to go right up the top of the glass and go to here and then go to here. And you might say, well, like, why are you doing that? Well, I'm going to make it symmetrical, and it'd be easier to just make one side of it. So I'm going to take away my fill, and I'll make my border color like red or something so I could see it. And I'll zoom in, and I'll just check my path here. I can see it's a little bumpy down there, so I'm going to fix that with my sub-select tool. I might have to smooth that out because it's showing as a corner. I might want to actually just kind of mirror that, make it smoother. Now, I'll have to fix that a little bit. Now, I might even be able to move this up here and pull that in. I don't know. I'll move this one up a little bit. Now, I'm kind of messing it up now, but that's okay. I just have to shorten these handles. Now this should be a curve as well, so I'm going to make that a curve. And now I got to get in, fix these things, and I'm just shortening handles. I'm going to try to get rid of one of these and see what happens. I'm going to try to go here and pull this one out. Now this might not work, or it might. Actually, it's not too bad. That's not a bad curve there, and that's not too bad. So I actually deleted a handle. I'll move this out a little bit so it's kind of straight. I'll move this out slightly. I think that looks okay. Now I only have half of it. So I'm going to zoom out. There's my half. And I'm okay with it. And there it is. It's just a path. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it. And you could use Control D or Command D. And there's the second path. And I'm going to flip it. They have a flip horizontal. And now to move it over so you don't drag it and move it all over, I'm just going to use my arrow. And if you hold Shift and use the arrow, it'll go faster. And it can overlap a little bit. I have to zoom in to see how my overlap is working, because I may have to make it a little bit wider, because I want overlap. I don't want the two things going on top of each other. I do want overlap. And actually, if you're not sure which one is which, you could make one purple or something, and that way I'll see which one is which when I go back here. Now I made it a little bit wider just because when I went over, I went past the middle part. So I think that looks okay. And what I'll do now is I'll highlight both of these and I'll do a union. And now it's just one path. I can fill it just to see what it looks like. And that's not a bad looking glass. I'll make it just gray for now. So a real light gray. And then I'm going to fill it with wine. All right, what we're going to do next is put some wine in the glass. Now here's the sample. You see what it is? It's the same shape, except it's kind of inset a little bit and it has a gradient on. And that's all we did. And we could put a little gradient on the glass and maybe reduce the opacity a little bit so it's a little see-through. So I'll go back to the glass. Now to do that, I could use the same shape. There's different ways you could do this. This thing is still a compound shape, so I'm going to make sure I convert that to one path. So now it's one single path. It's not a compound shape anymore. So this thing's all together. And what I'm going to do is make a copy of it. So just duplicate it. I guess I don't have to move it. So I'll do Command D or Control D on Windows. So there's a top shape underneath the second shape. It's right there. I'll just hit undo. Command Z or Control Z to undo. So there's one on the top here. So there's something called Modify Path, and it's expand or shrink. Modify path, expand and shrink. Now, what was confusing is it goes by pixels, and it doesn't tell you. I mean, it'd be nice if it just had a PX there, but it doesn't. So it might be something like 10 pixels or something. I'm just going to put in 10, and then I'll hit OK just to see what happens. Now that expanded. You see how it went out? If I look at it under outline view, it made the duplicate wider. So I want it to come in. Now the only thing I'm concerned about is if it goes in too far where it overlaps, it sometimes creates a problem. So let me just, I'll undo that, and actually I'll leave it on outline view right now just to see what happens. And I'm just going to experiment because I didn't even try this yet that I remember, and I'm going to try to shrink it. So that would be -10. Let's see what happens. Maybe -8. 10 might have been too much. Let's see what happens here. And you can see what's happening. That looks okay. It's making a shape down here. I'm going to go back into regular view, and these might still be together, but it's a compound path. So what you could do is, I think you can ungroup it. If you go to the, that's group items. Let me see. I don't know if I could click once and click again. It doesn't have the ungroup button, but if I go to modify path, split path, simplify path, I think what I'm going to have to do here, because it's treating it as one path and it's not letting me break it up here. It's called compound path, but you can see it's one path. So I think what I might have to do to get rid of that bottom part is use my sub-select tool and click on here and hit delete. It apparently won't delete it. I guess what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the one below it and highlight all these anchor points and just delete them. I think that's going to be a way to delete that bottom part. Now another solution would be chop it first so it doesn't do this part, like chop it off and then do this. Now I'm going to click off of here and click on that. Now I'm going to zoom in so I can see what's going on here. And wow, I put a lot of anchor points. So I'm going to delete some here. I'm just going to delete these ones. You can see there's overlapping points. And actually, I think that's kind of what I want. I'll get rid of some more here. I do want it to dip down, so you could just hover over here and dip that down a little bit. And now it should just be a single path. So I'm going to go over here. So I'm going to go my pointer, and then I'll go over here. I'll call that wine, because that's actually the wine. And then I'll go to the path, and that's actually my glass. It's locked. It won't let me change the name. So now I'll call it glass. Now they're the same color, that's why it doesn't look right. So I'll zoom out now, and I'll fill it with some wine color. And actually, let me try this. This will just be, I know we could try different things with the wine, but let me go to my bottle, and if I click on this thing, that's that stuff I did the middle with. If I just click on that and I do Command C and copy, let's see if we could copy the gradient. We'll just check it out and see what happens. I'll copy that from the inside of the wine bottle, and then I'll go back to my glass, and I'll make sure I click here, and I'll do edit, paste, paste style. That worked. It copied the gradient. Now, just to show you that this wasn't, that difficult, if I click on the gradient, you can see we have this kind of 3-color gradient here. Now, if I wanted to move it up, I could kind of move it up a little bit. If I'd want to extend it, I could kind of stretch it. I can make it shorter, I can make it longer, and then just kind of move it up on this blue so it's a little darker down there. That looks okay, I think. If you didn't want it that light, you could certainly make some of these colors a little darker. I could go in here on this one and maybe make it a little bit darker. That looks a little more wine-ish, I guess. And that looks pretty good. And I'm going to click on this thing now. And if you wanted to put some gradients on here, one thing you could do, And I know you may not like working with gradients, and it could be a hassle, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And I might have to fix that down there. But I'm going to delete the border on the wine glass, and I'm going to go back to my fill, and I'm just going to do a linear gradient. And I want it going across. Now, it's going from white to black like that. Now, I don't necessarily want it going to black, so I'm going to make this like a kind of medium gray, and I might go here, and I could put in a white, and then I might go on the end. I'll click here and make the end and make that like a kind of gray color. I'm just kind of mixing this up a little bit. And I'll put a white here. And you see it's getting a little variation. Now what we could do with some of these colors, if the ones are really dark, like here's a dark color, I could kind of turn down the opacity a little bit. Now I'm seeing the glass through it, so don't think that suddenly that's looking good. You could turn down the opacity, and it just might look better when we put it in front of something. Now I don't know what we're going to put in front yet, but let me turn this image off in the back. So that looks okay. That looks kind of glassish. Now if you did want a border on it, like a really light border, you could just put a gray border. You don't have to put black. Like it's 1 point right now. I could put 0.5 on it, and instead of black, I could maybe just make it, kind of a dark gray. So it's very subtle, but it's still there. It still holds in the areas where it gets kind of white. So that looks okay, I think. That's not a bad glass. Now, I wasn't sure what we were going to do next, but I guess we could do this right now. I'm going to add a new page. So I'll go here and add a new page, and I'll just call it bottle glass. Maybe we'll put something in here. And I could go and highlight the bottle, all the stuff from the bottle, just drag around it here, and I'll just copy it, Command C or Control C, and go here and paste it here. Now I'd want to put this in I don't have a layer folder here, so I'd probably go here and just call this bottle. I'm not sure. I guess I could have copied the whole layer folder, but remember, click on one, hold shift, click on the last one, and then drag it in here. So now everything's in there, and then I'm going to get the glass, and I'll copy the glass, and I'll put that on a bottle glass layer. It's kind of like when we put the apple and pear together a little bit. So I'm going to scale this down. I'll hold shift to scale it, so it's a little more, and you can see we'd see through it a little. Actually, that looks okay. We put it in front of it like that. Now we're gonna put a label on here, but that may be good to start. That's a good finish for now for this exercise. We're gonna kind of finish it here. We won't have to do anything else. You don't even have to do a background yet. We'll wait till we do a label. If you want to put some kind of picture behind it or whatever, we'll wait to do that. But this is pretty much what we want for this exercise. So we have our wine glass, we have our bottle, which looks pretty damn good, I have to say. It definitely looks better than the wine glass itself, but you could experiment with the gradient. You could maybe try something, that has some variations going across, but I think that looks pretty good. You could even try putting a glass in front of it and then turning down the opacity so it looks more like you're seeing through it, because this looks like you're kind of slicing through it, but that's not too bad. It would probably look better if you put some shines on it, if you actually looked at a real glass of wine, just like we were looking at a real wine bottle, and if you put some highlights on there, that would probably look better. I don't know if that putting it's just kind of cutting down on the color, although that's okay for now, I guess. So I'm going to save this. I'm not going to drag this out anymore. I think it's a pretty good wine bottle and glass, and we still have a label to put on here. But for this exercise, for 11, the wine bottle and glass, we'll stop here, and then for another, we'll call it another exercise where we'll actually work on a label. It'll give us a chance to work with text a little bit and work with some of our leaf images and start to do some design work as well instead of just constructing things. And now that that's saved, what you could do is you can share it and copy this, and then go back to My Warren and go to coursework and look for the assignment, wine bottle glass. Don't click on this link. That was a starting link. You're going to go here, and you're just going to add comment, and you're going to insert a link, and you'll just paste it, and you'll hit new window, and you'll put OK, and you'll hit save. Don't worry about doing a PDF right now because we have all those pages. We'll do something at the end so we have kind of a nice finished project at the end. But just for now, that's all you have to do for the 11 wine bottle glass exercise. So hopefully you enjoyed that. Hopefully you learned a little bit more about gradients or had a chance to experiment a little bit. But we'll have a nice portfolio piece after we design a label on here.